Boy, what a day. Republican, this banking bill, I mean, I mentioned I wanted to talk about the banking bill with you, and I really do. After the crash, after 2008, 2007, 2008, after the great Bush crash, the Republican crash of the banking system, and well, it wasn't entirely Republican. A lot of the deregulation happened during the Clinton administration, although Republicans were largely in charge of Congress at that time, too. But, there was, Robert Rubin and all those guys who were hanging out with the Democrats. They were gung-ho for it. Deregulate banks, yeah. And apparently there are still some Democrats who are, like, gung-ho for deregulating banks. In fact, 33 of them. These House Democrats, these House Democrats, this is from an article in The Nation. These House Democrats, over commondreams.org. These House Democrats just voted for a massive rollback of the Wall Street reforms enacted after the 2008 financial crash. If one of these is your representative, you might want to ask them why. I mean, maybe they have a good reason. I've not been able to find one, but maybe they had one. Barra of California, Bishop of Georgia, Carson of Indiana, these are all Democrats, Correa of California, Costa of California, Cuellar of Texas, Davis of Illinois, Delaney of Maryland, Foster of Illinois, Gonzalez of Texas, Gottheimer of New Jersey, Hastings of Florida, Himes of Connecticut, Kind of Wisconsin, Kuster, of New Hampshire, Larson of Washington State, Lawson of Florida, Maloney of New York, Murphy of Florida, Noland of, boy, Rick Nolan voted for this thing? That's astonishing. Nolan of Minnesota, O'Halloran of Arizona, Peters of California, Peterson of Minnesota, Rice of New York, Rochester of Pennsylvania, Schneider of Illinois, Schrader of Oregon. Yeah, Kurt Schrader here in Oregon is kind of very much a corporate Democrat. Scott of Georgia, Sewell of Alabama, Sinema of Arizona, Sauzzi of New York, Vasey of Texas, and Vila of Texas. Now, I'm not a big fan of the circular firing squad, of sitting around complaining about Democrats. That said, when an actual vote happens, when people go on the record as saying, yes, I'm here with the banks instead of with the people, I think it's worth asking them why. And I guarantee you, none of these people will come on this program and explain why they voted this way. Well, I can't guarantee that, but our experience in the past is that whenever there's been one of these controversial votes and we've asked people to come on the program, Democrats or Republicans, they do not want to go on the record. They don't want to talk about this. But if you're a constituent of one of these folks, and again, this isn't a vote the bums out of office kind of thing. It's a let's let people know that we are paying attention. We want a country that works for all of us, and we want a country, I mean, it's not like the banks were desperately in need of help. They just finished their most profitable quarter in the history of the world. I mean, probably banks in the Roman Empire weren't as profitable as banks are right now. And we're bailing them out, or we're setting up the next bailout for the next time that they do their reckless and excessive greed shtick. This was called the Economic Growth, Regulatory Relief, and Consumer Protection Act. And it's going to do nothing for economic growth. Relief is the wrong word to associate with regulatory. It's deregulation. It is blowing away consumer protections and blowing away protections of the United States. You recall that when Bush crashed the economy in 2007, the Fed loaned out $27 trillion. We created, the GDP of the United States is $15 trillion. We created almost 2 years worth of GDP cash out of thin air and loaned it to billionaires in Eastern European countries, to Deutsche Bank, to billionaires here in the United States, to the big banks, to giant corporations, GM Financial, General Electric, all, company after company after company got bailouts from the Fed. We didn't even know about it for a couple of years until Ron Paul, back when he was in the House, and Bernie Sanders got together and passed a rider to, I think it was either an omnibus bill, an omnibus budget bill, or it was the NDAA that required a one-year audit of the Fed for 2008. And that's when we discovered all these shenanigans. And this is certainly not consumer protection. This is the opposite of consumer protection.